Hey folks, welcome to the channel Rockin' the Country. I'm Don. You saw the title. This is the history of Loretta Lynn Part 2 from CMT, Country Music Television, and it is a gift request from funRonni. Ronnie made 5 gifts to the channel for me to do parts 1 through 5 for everybody, so she didn't especially dedicate this to others, but I'm going to dedicate it to others for her because this is a fantastic education and just about one of the most intriguing, accomplished, and beloved entertainers anywhere. And Loretta happens to be traditional country music's torch bearer. Let's call it that. She certainly is that today. But part 1 was yesterday. Part 2 is today. So let's get into it. Ronnie, thank you on behalf of everybody on the channel and myself for this education.
In 1953, 18-year-old Loretta Lynn was living anything but the life of a woman of leisure. She was the mother of 4 with a philandering husband 8 years her senior. To make matters worse, the couple was living in Washington State, far, far away from Loretta's family. Though she was surrounded by a family of her own, Loretta Lynn was, in many ways, all alone.
It was day to day that I just think, well, he'll come in tomorrow. He'll be home tomorrow. This went on, you know, for 2 weeks.
When Doolittle finally did return home, there was hell to pay. The relationship remained as volatile as ever, with Doolittle frequently using his hands to get his point across. But young Loretta gave as good as she got.
Doo never smacked me one time, but he didn't get 2 smacks back. I grew up tough. And I told Doo one day, I wrote a song about it. I'm made out of tough stuff. But he didn't beat up on me without me hitting him back.
Loretta's lot in life continued in the same vein for several years. She fended for herself and her children the best she could without the help of her family. She missed her life in Butcher Holler, especially her father. In 1959, at age 23, Loretta was awakened by a disturbing dream. It left her with the unshakable fear that the separation from her father was about to become permanent.
I woke up crying. And Doo said, "What's wrong?" I said, "My daddy's dead." He said, "Oh, no." I said, "Yes, I had a dream about it, Doo." Finally went back to sleep and woke back up. That just added on to my dream. It just was more stuff, like the coffin was sitting at the old well box in Butcher Holler and propped up on little tiny rocks, I thought. And I thought I was going around the coffin and wringing my hands and crying.
Early the following morning, Loretta was awakened by a knock on the door. Her landlord told her she had a telephone call from back home.
And Bonnie, my sister-in-law, come on the phone. And she said, "Loretta, are you sitting down?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Your daddy just died." Damn. So when Daddy had his stroke was when I was dreaming.
The year following her father's death was a seminal year for Loretta. She channeled her grief into singing and even taught herself to play a cheap guitar Doolittle had bought for her a few years earlier. She learned several Kitty Wells songs, and she would often play and sing around the house, but only for Doolittle and the children. Then, in early 1960, when Loretta was 24, Doolittle announced that Loretta was ready to play in public. For reasons Loretta could not understand, Doolittle was confident she could make a career out of singing.
Then he come in one night and he said, "Well, you're about ready now. I'm going to get you a job." And says, "You can work for 2 years and we'll buy us a house and it'll be over."
The great love between Loretta and Doo was the fact that he believed so fiercely in her. He might call her a dumb hillbilly or make fun of her on some levels. But if there was ever a person who absolutely believed in Loretta and made her feel completely special, it was Doolittle Lynn.
Doolittle arranged a spur-of-the-moment audition for Loretta with a local band called the Westerners. The painfully shy country girl was terrified to get on stage, but Doolittle insisted. The band liked what they heard and invited Loretta to sing with them at a dance hall in Blaine, Washington.
$5 on a Saturday night. And I saved my money up, bought me a felt hat and a skirt with fringe on it. It's culottes. And a black shirt with big red roses and white Acme boots. Man, Annie Oakley couldn't have held a candle for me.
Loretta's confidence grew with every performance. In just a few months, she had her own band called Loretta's Trailblazers, with her brother J. Lee Webb on lead guitar, Roland Smiley on pedal steel, and Loretta on
All right, but how did her brother get to Washington State? I mean, obviously you'd say by train or airplane and stuff, but why did he go up there to live and play, just to play with her? Maybe her star was already rising and he decided, hey, there's nothing going on where I'm at. I don't know his history. That'd be interesting. Maybe he's going to talk about it. Maybe they got him on this History Channel.
Rhythm guitar and vocal. They had been playing for several months at a local tavern when Doolittle entered Loretta in an amateur contest on a regional TV show out of Tacoma, Washington. It was hosted by a young country singer named Buck Owens.
Doo took me down to his TV show and asked Buck if I couldn't sing, and I sang Whispering Sea. That was the third song I wrote. And
third now.
This man from...
I did a courtesy of Ronnie. A few days ago, I did a reaction to Whispering Sea, and Loretta had said that was the first one she'd written. So you're right, Ronnie. I saw the comment that you had made that Loretta goes back and forth on what was the first, second, third song she'd written, but this is Whispering Sea. You want to go see that song. That's what she wrote.
Vancouver, Canada. He owned a big lumber yard. He seen me sing Whispering Sea. So
Canadian.
He called for me to come up to talk to him. Mr. Burley was his name.
Norm Burley's business was lumber, not music. But his wife had recently died, and Loretta's song Whispering Sea had touched him. The wealthy Vancouver businessman not only paid for a recording session, but even created a record label just for Loretta. They called it Zero Records. In 1960, she and Doolittle drove to Los Angeles and recorded two of the songs she had written, Whispering Sea and I'm a Honky-Tonk Girl.
And now I'm a honky-tonk girl.
In the late spring of 1960, with a little of Norm Burley's money, Loretta and Doolittle set out to promote her record. They headed down the West Coast in their old Mercury, stopping at every little radio station along the way. Not only were many of the DJs impressed with Loretta's record, but they couldn't help but be charmed by the naive, fresh-faced country girl.
I think that when Loretta became Loretta, the Loretta we know and love, the funny Loretta, the zany Loretta, the outgoing, the friendly Loretta, is when she begins to visit those radio stations and begins to crack people up with her mountainisms and her goofy, uneducated way of speaking.
I think once they got on the road with the record, they really became a team. I think Doo began respecting her more and more. I think he started to see what the world down the road would see, that everybody's going to love Loretta.
When they returned to Washington, they were told Honky Tonk Girl had hit number 14 on the Billboard chart. They had never heard of Billboard or charts, but they knew the next stop was Nashville. In August of 1960, Loretta and Doolittle dropped the kids off in Indiana with family and headed for Music City. Wearing a 99-cent Salvation Army dress, the tenacious young singer descended on Music Row and began hawking a record to anyone who would listen.
I mean, there wasn't a door at 8 o'clock in the morning that I didn't. Was sitting on the steps of the publishing companies.
I think that they just went moment by moment. You know, all of a sudden they made this little record. They got in this old car and drove to Tennessee to get on the Grand Ole Opry. That was the only thing that they saw. They had no plan. They had no money.
The good fortune and timing that began in Washington would continue when Loretta Lynn knocked on the door of Surefire Publishing. It was owned by the Wilburn brothers, a successful country music act who were well connected in the Nashville entertainment industry. Doyle and Teddy Wilburn were immediately charmed.
I went in and said, I'm Loretta Lynn. I've got this little record out here. I'd like for you to listen to it.
I think what Teddy and Doyle saw in this woman was, first of all, her talent, her sincerity, the fact that she was believable. She was real.
Yep. She captured the heart, so to speak. And the first thing Doyle said was, Margie, we have met a female Hank Williams.
She was so naive till it was beautiful.
The Wilburns' first order of business was to get their new artist an appearance on the prestigious Grand Ole Opry. Doyle took Loretta to meet Ott Devine, the Opry manager. Devine was instantly taken with the delightfully unrefined newcomer. On October 15, 1960, just 3 months after she had arrived in Nashville, Loretta Lynn made her first appearance on the Grand Ole Opry. She was an immediate hit.
He'd put me on the Opry for 21 weekends in a row. And he said, well, today you're a Grand Ole Opry member. I jumped about that high off the floor, and they got that on a picture.
Playing the Opry and touring with the Wilburn Brothers show was earning Loretta a high profile in Music City. The next step for the Wilburns was to get Loretta signed to their record label, Decca Records. The man at the helm of Decca was Owen Bradley, the hottest producer in country music. Doyle was determined to get Loretta a record deal, whatever it took.
Yeah.
All the way to Hollywood from Arkansas.
Coming up, a distraught Loretta chooses career over family and leaves her newborn twins behind.
If I'd known what was going to happen, I wouldn't have started singing.
And later, the men she loved like brothers sue her for $5 million.
A 20-year contract is a lifetime contract, they call it. And I signed 5 of them in one day.
When CMT Inside Fame continued.
Wow. Well, that just got juicier at the end there about the $5 million, her being sued and all that stuff. But it's not uncommon in that business. You know, Billy Joel had to sue. I mean, in this case, she was getting sued for breach of contract, but Billy Joel sued to get released from his songwriting deal that he'd signed when he was like 19 or something like that. And wow. But man, this is some heavy, beautiful stuff. But it's funny because the way they talk about language and there's real and new up and comer and all that stuff. This is my girlfriend to a T, and that's why I told my girlfriend too. I said every time I see about Loretta, I learn more about you. So I mean, they talk very similarly, not just accent wise, but Loretta is just Loretta. I mean, right place, right time. We're going to learn about more hardships and so on, but you just are so thankful that a person like this made it. Just that simple. So, all right, folks, that's part 2, courtesy of funRonni from New York, upstate New York, mind you, not New York City, but upstate New York. And I'm in New Jersey, so Loretta's a worldwide phenom and much loved. All right, guys, have a great day. See you in another video and keep rocking the country.
Earlier, she learned several Kitty Wells songs, and she would often play and sing around the house.